On what you say?
I am a very fair person, Raymond. And I do want to hear what you have to say, which is why I think maybe we should slot some more time for this tomorrow.
You said you needed to see me today.
Yes, I did, and I am sorry that I kept you waiting. But I'm late now, and I want to give you the time that you deserve.
I waited outside for 15 minutes while you were in here singing.
Okay. How have you gone off, Raymond?
Like, you don't have a list right there.
I know about the wall and the garbage can incident.
Lame.
It was destroyed. What were you trying to say there, Raymond?
Nothing. It was a fucking garbage can. Language. I know.
School property.
I did my time.
Yes, a 3-day suspension.
I was so far behind when I got back.
So, what else?
What are you looking for? I don't torture animals or mutilate bugs if that's what you're looking for.
Why would you even say that?
Serial killer, major psycho profile, alarm bells ringing.
I don't think you're a psycho, as you put it, but it is my job to determine if you are a threat to others or to yourself.
But you've already decided that.
No, I haven't.
You have my file, the whole Hitler story. You said people think I'm a threat. Just cut to the chase.
Oh, look, Raymond, I'm not sure exactly what you were trying to do, but I do think that you were trying to do something. Obviously, you were very bright, and I know that you've thought about this a lot, but the school has to have a zero tolerance for violence. Especially now, I mean, you understand that, don't you?
I kicked a wall. I didn't hit anyone.
It's not just your violent action. Violence starts with the way we think about people, the way we talk about them. If there's something about your identification with Hitler.
Oh my God, I didn't say I identified with him. I was just making a point.
You said his shoes felt familiar.
Because I was trying to make a point, right? I was trying to understand him, where he was coming from. A whole bunch of people identified with him. Isn't that interesting to you?
Interesting? Maybe. Tragic? Yes.
But not worth pursuing.
I didn't say that. I think maybe your choice of delivery is more interesting. Or telling.
There's one principle that cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation.
Herbert Spencer.
You said that in that peace speech you made in assembly last year, after that girl was killed.
You have a good memory.
It was a good speech.
Thank you.
You said a lot of good stuff in that speech.
I worked on it. It was important to me.
That's what I was doing. Investigating. I figured if I could get into Hitler's shoes, act it out, kind of like, almost like be like him, I could get into his head too. If you can get into someone's head, you have a better chance of understanding them.
I think you're right about that.
You do.
Yes, I do. But I don't know if you kicking in walls or yelling in people's faces is the way to understanding. I do know that we should talk about this a little more. How about after math tomorrow?
What, that's it?
Well, you have a free period, right?
Just tell me if I'm getting the boots.
Raymond, I've already told you that is going to depend on our conversation.
Right. You have to get to Les Mis.
Prior commitment.
So, are you going with someone?
Yes.
Your husband?
Partner. Raymond?
Okay. Just one thing. In that speech, your speech, did you really believe all that stuff about being peace?
I do.
You don't believe in violence?
No, I don't. I don't believe it ultimately works. I mean, how could anyone really believe in violence? It's like saying you believe in death.
You could believe in its power, that it can change things.
For the worse.
Wars change things.
Peace is what's really going to change things.
So what, everyone's just gonna stop fighting and be peaceful?
Pretty radical idea, huh? No more fighting. Finding non-violent solutions to all problems. I mean, what a concept.
How is that even possible?
It starts with ourselves. I don't have all the answers, but I know I can work on me. I can be part of the solution.
Like Gandhi, you must be the change you want to see in the world.
You've been reading.
I rented the DVD.
I really do want to talk to you, Raymond. This is important.
Do you know what Gandhi said about the Jews?
When?
In that letter he wrote. He basically said they should take what they were getting. They didn't put that in the movie. I Googled him too.
That is not what he meant at all.
He said they should stay in Germany and take what they were getting.
No, he called on the Jewish people to resist the Nazis with dignity and nonviolence.
And how were they supposed to do that?
He believed that if enough people resisted nonviolently, they would call on the conscience of their oppressor and stop the oppression.
Call on the conscience of a Nazi. What conscience?
I believe he meant calling on the conscience of the German people.
Did he have any idea what the Jews were going through? I mean, did he?
He'd seen his own people suffer. He knew about the power of nonviolence he'd suffered for it.
So he didn't eat once in a while. Big deal. He wasn't roasted in an oven.
I imagine Gandhi had no idea of the horrors that were facing the Jewish people. I mean, it would be a terribly hard thing to imagine.
But he still had an opinion on what they should do.
He didn't believe in war. It was one idea.
Oh, it's easy to have ideas when you're not confronted with anything.
He had a different way of confronting things. Taken out of context, it seems callous, but when you look at his life, evil can be confronted through the power of love.
So he was just gonna love Hitler off the planet? But what about apathy?
What do you mean?
Can apathy be confronted through the power of love? Can people who just don't care one way or the other get off their asses and actually do something when confronted with love? I think evil does a better job of getting people moving. People aren't going to do anything unless their asses are on the line.
I don't know, Raymond. Look, I appreciate your passion, but this is a much larger conversation.
You know what the Canadian Prime Minister said about that thing in Colorado? When those guys shot all those kids at Columbine. That it's happening too often. Like, if it happened once in a while, that would be okay.
I agree with that.
That if it happened once in a while, that would be okay?
No, that we're basically desensitized to violence. That we tolerate it in certain amounts, and we get queasy when the boundaries are pushed, but we stretch those boundaries all the time. That's why I think violent games and movies are dangerous. That, by the way, is why I don't read newspapers.
Do you have kids?
Not yet.
I bet if you did, you wouldn't let them see any good movies.
Not all movies are violent.
You really think you can protect kids from the world that way? They aren't going to know what hit them when they get out there. What about when some asshole kid starts picking on him because he's got acne or something?
Why are you so angry?
Well, it isn't because of the movies. Movies don't make you do things. I never wanted to stretch my face like Jim Carrey or drink blood because of Dracula. Way more people see violent movies and don't do violence.
They may not do violence, as you say, but they become more complicit in it. I mean, it just becomes the norm, the way things are. They participate by not making a choice.
Oh, is that why you went on about being peace when that girl was killed?
It was such a terrible, senseless thing that happened. You know, I didn't want it to just go by without trying to do something. If we could change...
She's dead. You can't change that.
But we can learn from it. Try in some way to honor her by committing to building a world where it's not so easy for all of this anger and hatred to take us to these places. If we can't commit to peace in our own schools and homes and bodies, then how can we expect the world to change?
The world isn't going to change.
I believe that it can. Through peace.
So what if someone attacks you?
Physically?
Yeah, attacks you.
A verbal assault can be just as vicious as a physical blow.
I'm talking about getting kicked in the head. A physical attack. Then what do?
Well, hopefully I haven't created that in my life.
What?
Hopefully I'm not attracting it on some level.
Yeah, but it could happen.
Well, of course it could happen.
You have to defend yourself.
But there are different ways of defending yourself. There is an ancient principle of martial arts. That which you resist persists. When someone is about to strike a physical blow, you merely move aside, and the force of his own aggression will take him to the ground.
Oh my God, yeah. And then he gets up and pounds on you for making him look like an idiot.
It's just a premise, Raymond. Martial arts aren't my forte, so to speak. Look, this is all very interesting, but really, I have to get going.
Look, can you please, just give me an example of being peace?
Raymond.
Please. I'm not joking. It's important.
Being peace is having fire hoses turned on you, and you just keep marching.
Have you ever had a fire hose turned on you?
It's an example.
Well, just so you know, when you have a fire hose turned on you, you can barely stand up, let alone march. The pressure of a fire hose can be 1,000 pounds of water per second. If you hold a fire hose too close to someone, you could actually rupture their internal organs with the impact.
I said it was a metaphor, Raymond. Inspiration from the civil rights movement.
Okay, can you give me something from this century? Closer to home. There's something you've done as a pacifist.
It's not any one thing. It's a way of behaving, of approaching things.
But what have you done to make a difference?
I try to make a difference every day. I take responsibility for creating my reality. I don't blame. I avoid conflict. And I practice. Through yoga, through breathing. Imagine if every person in the world were committed to being peaceful. We'd have peace.
Yoga.
Hey, yoga is just a means to an end. And it beats kicking holes in the wall.
How would you know?
Okay, wait. Sit down. Let me share something with you. You have to start with yourself, right?
Whatever.
Okay. Well, the other day, I was in a coffee shop reading a book, and it was nice, peaceful. And then I noticed this older man sitting across from me, staring. I look up, and the second I meet his eyes, he starts talking. I say hello, he says hello. I try to get back to my book, but he just starts talking. He tells me that he's been in an accident and broken all the toes on both of his feet, that he has trouble moving around, that he had to cut the front out of all of his shoes. I mean, he just goes on and on about his son not visiting, and then about his daughter-in-law not cooking or something. You know, my coffee was getting cold. I just want him to be quiet, but he keeps talking about how his toes get cold, how he has to elevate them properly for blood flow, how much TV he was watching. It was so irritating. I could feel myself getting angry. Until I took a breath. I just reminded myself to be in the moment. I made a choice to be with this guy instead of worrying about my book and my coffee. And the second I did, do you know what I saw? He couldn't get out of the chair. He was talking because he was trying to cover up the fact that he couldn't get out of the chair. He was rambling on and on to cover up the fact that he could not get out of the chair. He had no balance. He was embarrassed. And I'd been too preoccupied to notice that this poor man just needed help to get out of the chair.
So?
So I helped him out of the chair.
That's it?
It's a subtle thing, I know, being present, being kind, noticing what's really going on.
Fuck, that's depressing.
Well, I told you it's something you practice.
That's practicing nonviolence? You don't give anyone the finger when you're driving, do you?
No, I don't.
Do you tell anyone to shut up in a movie theater?
You don't have to say shut up to get someone to be quiet.
You're a vegetarian, aren't you?
Why?
You You're just that type. Non-violence towards chickens, right?
Well, it might be a good place for you to start. I eat fish.
Fish have feelings too.
No, actually, they don't, Raymond. Look.
Right, you don't have to get to Les Mis.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, me too.
We will sort this out tomorrow.
I may not be here tomorrow.
Is that a threat?
I might be sick tomorrow.
Well, that's your choice.
Everything's a choice with you, isn't it?
We all make them.
Have you ever been in a dangerous situation?
Have you?
Life is dangerous.
You sound like you feel threatened, Raymond.
See, that's when being peace gets hard. When it gets real.
Is somebody threatening you, Raymond?
You're the one kicking me out of school.
How are things at home?
Here we go.
What?
Psychoanalysis 101. The mother did it.
Maybe we could bring your mother in to talk.